So good morning. There's not a lot of us today, but it's nice to see some new faces. So welcome. I am Annette Lovell. I will be your worship associate today, bringing you the service with Reverend Kevin Carson and our media tech, Vic Allen. It is also Mother's Day. So a special welcome to the mothers out there, whether you're our mother through birth or marriage or adoption or those fur babies, which we call our children. However you are, we welcome all of the mothers in all of your various forms and manifestations. We welcome you all and hope you find community and relationship here in this religious home. We always like to start our morning with announcements. We are doing hybrid services, which means that we are streaming online. So first of all, if you are online, please join in our chat box and say hello so we know who is joining us. It's always nice. If you want to share a joy or a concern, please put it in your chat box so that we can pull them together. If you are here in the sanctuary, We have strips of paper at the back of the room that you can write your joys and concerns, sorrows on, and we will collect them and share them later on in the service. We are still not passing our basket during the time of offering. So if you would like to give a donation to the church today, you can write a check, drop it in the basket, the back of the sanctuary again, mail in a check, go onto our website, and pay via PayPal. Of course, all and any donations are gratefully received. So a few more announcements. Many people are a little outraged at the way women's choices about our bodies are being narrowed across the states, and including Idaho, and now maybe even federally. So if this is something that you feel strongly about, keep an eye out for some upcoming weekly updates of maybe how you can be given an opportunity to share your voice with a larger group. I'm sure that there will be numerous events that will be put together if you're interested in the near future. There's also a children's summer food service program that we're going to join in again this summer. Cindy Logan is going to be the team leader, but we're looking for at least 3 other volunteers, maybe more if possible. What this would entail is 1 week this summer, every day, 11 to 3:30. During that week, you'll be preparing and serving bag lunches in the park to a lot of children. So if you are interested, the week has not been chosen yet. So I think that will be something, as the volunteers get together, they can try to work with a program and make that work. But it's really a nice thing you can do. You do need to be able to lift 25 pounds. That is something. At least 2 of the volunteers must lift 25 pounds. Oh, and last announcement is, please do not forget that finally, after 2 years, Kevin Carson, our lovely minister, will be having his installation next Sunday, May 15th, 2 o'clock here. We will not be having a morning service at 10:30, just the installation. We are asking people to RSVP through eventbrite.com. Please do so. If, of course, at the last minute you think you can't come and then your day opens up, please come. Please come. Just we'd like an RSVP if possible. Are there any other announcements? Good, good, okay. So let us now prepare for worship with a few moments to settle in. Let us pay attention to our breathing. Let us be relaxed in our bodies and our minds. Let us be at peace with our bodies and our minds. And I will ring the peace bell 3 times. So we choose to covenant together and reiterate with ourselves some principal ideas every week when we are here gathered together. If you are willing and able, I invite you to please recite with me our church's covenant. It is written in your order of service. Love is the spirit of this community, and service its law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. And our chalice lighting this morning is from the book Earth Prayers, and it's an excerpt written by Diane DiPrima. If you are at home and you have a candle or a chalice, I invite you to please light it along with us. She wrote, "O Lady, the hem of whose garment is the sky, whose grace falls from her glance, who gives life from the touch of one finger. O Lady, whose hair is the willow, whose breath is the river song, who lopes through the Milky Way baying, stars going out. O Lady, whose death head holds 1,000 eyes, eye sockets, black imploding stars, whose trail frail as a northern virgin in the mists. O Lady, fling your bright drops to us, emblems of your love. Throw your green scarf on the battered earth once more. O smile, disrobe for us, unveil your eyes."
Good morning. Our call to worship this morning is from an Akkadian hymn to the great goddess Inanna, and it dates to between 2334 and 2218 BCE. I say, "Hail to the Holy One who appears in the heavens. I say, hail to the holy priestess of heaven. I say, hail to Inanna, great lady of heaven. You holy torch, you fill the sky with light. You brighten the day at dawn, awesome lady of the Anuna gods, crowned with the great horns. Mighty, majestic, and radiant, you shine brilliantly in the evening. You brighten the day at dawn. You stand in the heavens like the sun and the moon. Your wonders are known both above and below. To the greatness of the holy priestess of heaven, to you, Inanna, I sing." I invite you now to enjoy our opening hymn, number 191, "Now I Recall My Childhood."
Today's Time for All Ages is Babushka's Doll by Patricia Palacio. Oh, this is very, very tiny. It wasn't that Natasha was a truly naughty child. She just never understood why she had to wait for things. Babushka, Natasha said, in Russian, for in Russian, babushka meant grandmother. Please stop doing the laundry and push me in the swing. My darling child, Babushka said, I have to do the laundry first. Would you like to help me? No, said Natasha. I want to swing now. Aren't you finished yet? I want to go for a ride in the goat cart. My precious, Babushka said, I must hang up these clothes while the sun is shining. But the sun will be shining all day. I want to go now, Babushka. Take me. Babushka went to feed the goats. Natasha followed. But I'm hungry too, Babushka. My stomach is making noises. I want to eat now. Don't be selfish, darling, said Babushka. These poor creatures need to be fed. They cannot fix their own lunch. Now I am finished, said Babushka, and now we will have lunch. She took a kettle down from the high shelf. Natasha looked up on the shelf where the kettle had been, and there was a little doll she had never seen before. Is that your doll, Babushka? She asked. Yes, dear, it was my doll when I was a little girl like you. Did you play with her all the time? Said Natasha. No, my dear, I played with her only once. Only once. I have finished my soup now, said Natasha. May I hold the little doll? Just for a little while. Babushka got the doll down from the high shelf. Yes, it is just the right time for you to play with her, said Babushka. She handed the doll to Natasha. I am going to the store for groceries, she said. You may play with the doll until I get back. As soon as the door closed behind Natasha's grandmother, something happened. The little doll began to move. She jumped to her feet and did a little dance. Natasha was a bit frightened, but then the doll called, Come on, Tasha, let's go out and play. Natasha and the doll ran and ran until Natasha could run no more. As soon as Natasha sat down to catch her breath, the doll said, Get up, Tasha, you get up now, I want to play. I'll swing you on the swing, Natasha said. Whee! The doll squeaked. Push harder, I want to go higher. Natasha pushed the doll higher and higher, but soon she grew tired. Don't stop, Tasha, cried the doll. Don't stop, I want you to swing me higher. I'll take you for a ride in the goat cart, Natasha said. Oh, goody, Tasha, the doll chirped, and don't you slow down. You have to keep going as long as I want. Do you hear me? As long as I want. Soon Natasha couldn't lead the goat cart any longer. I have to stop, said Natasha. I need to rest. Now I want to eat, said the doll. Poor Natasha was very tired, but she tried her best to make lunch. Babushka's doll spilled the tea, she sloshed the soup from her spoon, and she flung noodles over her head. Then she pounded her fist in the mess and laughed and laughed. Suddenly she stopped laughing and started to scream, My dress, Tasha, it's all dirty. I want you to wash it. You wash it right now. Natasha washed the little dress and hung it on the line. Then she ironed it and put it on the doll. You didn't do it right, said the doll. My dress is all wrinkled. Natasha began to cry. I'm just a little girl, she said between sobs. I wish you were just a doll. My darling girl, a voice called out. Why are you crying, my precious child? Babushka, sobbed Natasha. Your little doll came to life and she was very naughty. All she wanted me to do was work. She never let me rest. She made me iron her dress and I don't even know how. I'm just a little girl. There, Babushka said. You must have had a bad dream. Maybe, said Natasha. Her grandmother smiled and held Natasha close. From now on, you can play with the little doll any time you want. No, thank you, Babushka, Natasha said. Once is enough. Babushka picked up the little doll and put her back on the high shelf. It looks like you had quite a day, she said softly. The little doll gave Babushka a wink and went back to being just a doll. And Natasha turned out to be quite nice after all. The end.
As we leave this friendly place, love give light to every face.
this is our time for sharing our joys and our concerns with each other. It's a way that we're able to bring each other into our circles and build our relationships together. We will start this morning. First of all, Layla Chambers called me this morning, and B. Moyer is in Ermac with a serious digestive issue. She has been in ICU for many days now, but they are hoping to release her up to the 4th floor today. So she is on the mend. We have a joy from Cindy Logan. She says, I am grateful for my family today and always. It's worth a lot of candles. Judy has a concern, but she wants positive energy brought forward, positive news from around the world at this time, and a sorrow that we will miss the Tanners. And we welcome you on your new journey. Yeah. Thank you, John. And the last candle is from Arthur. It is a joy. He says, mark your calendars for June 10th. There will be a concert for Ukraine at the Civic Auditorium in support of the refugees from the Russian invasion. And as always, we will light one more candle for all of those joys and concerns which will remain unspoken. I should say I did not see anything in the chat box, but was I incorrect? Great.
Our reading this morning comes from the book When God Was a Woman by Merlin Stone. Few people who live in societies where Christianity, Judaism, or Islam are followed remain unaware of the tale of Eve heeding the word of the serpent in the Garden of Eden, eating the forbidden fruit, and then tempting Adam to do the same. Generally, during the most impressionable years of childhood, we are taught that it was this act of eating the tasty fruit of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil that caused the loss of paradise, the expulsion of Adam and Eve, and thus all humankind from this first home of bliss and contentment. We are also made to understand that as a result of this act, it was decreed by God that woman must submit to the dominance of man, who was at that time divinely presented with the right to rule over her from that moment until now. The expulsion of Adam and Eve from the Garden of Eden is not exactly the latest news, but few contemporary happenings have affected women of today any more directly. In the struggle to achieve equal status for women in a society still permeated by the values and moralities of Judeo-Christian beliefs, which have penetrated deeply into even the most secular aspects of contemporary civilization, we soon realize that a thorough examination of this creation legend alongside its historical origins provides us with vital information. It allows us to comprehend the role that contemporary religions have played in the initial and continual oppression and subjugation of women and the reasons for this. In prehistoric and early historic periods of human development, religions existed in which people revered their supreme creator as female. The great goddess, the divine ancestress, has been worshipped from the beginning of the Neolithic period of 7000 BCE until the closing of the last goddess temples around 500 CE. Some authorities would extend goddess worship as far into the past as the Upper Paleolithic age of about 25,000 BCE. What had life been like for women who lived in a society that venerated a wise and valiant female creator? Why had the members of the later male religions fought so aggressively to suppress that earlier worship, even the very memory of it?
and all thy dreams your joy gives birth, a hopeful future race.
Until recent decades, most new Unitarian Universalists were come-outers from another religious tradition, typically some flavor of Christianity or Judaism. But nowadays, an increasing number of new UUs are coming from the unchurched segment of society that continues to grow every year. We have always attracted open-minded people, and perhaps the unchurched have an easier time joining our journey of spiritual explanation, since they have less religious baggage to deconstruct and reimagine than those of us who are raised in a Christian or Jewish household. A small percentage of UUs still embrace a Christian or Jewish identity, but even among the most traditional of our movement, I have yet to meet a single Unitarian Universalist who considers the Bible to be a literal source of truth, the inerrant Word of God, as many of our neighbors still do. And this is especially true of the human origin story of Adam and Eve from the book of Genesis. But no matter how unchurched one may be, as our reading this morning attests, it is a rare individual who does not know at least the basic story of Adam and Eve, because it has become so ingrained in Western and American culture. Stained glass windows and museums are filled with images of Eden and the temptation of Eve. And I even recall a few TV commercials over the years that alluded to the story in their efforts to tempt us into buying whatever product they were selling. It is a myth that has endured. And Eve's alleged disobedience still looms large in the way God has been imagined almost exclusively as male in Judaism, Christianity, and Islam for several millennia. It is a dangerous myth that has permeated Western society, resulting in inequality for women, oppression, and subjugation ever since. And as we know too well, even in today's world, it informs the politics and policies that continue to oppress women's rights. Many people who want to overturn Roe v. Wade, or who would enact other laws that are harmful to women, are among the true believers in the Adam and Eve myth. But many others may not even realize how the myth lurks deep in their psyche, helping them to justify imposing their will upon a woman's body and her right to make her own healthcare choices. Hearing justification from some of them who claim their efforts are motivated by doing God's will is frankly nauseating. Those of us who oppose this thinking will unfortunately have lots of work to do in the days ahead. I did not know about the SCOTUS leak when I chose my topic this morning, looking back to a time in history when the Mother Goddess was revered around the world, but it now seems particularly poignant. So on this day when we honor the mother figures in our lives, let us set aside our anger for a time and explore the way the divine feminine has been experienced in the past, and consider how we got into this situation we see today. Let this be spiritual food to fuel the work ahead. I'll mostly be talking about the various forms of the Mother Goddess as she was worshipped in Europe, North Africa, and the Near and Middle East, because it is the cradle of Western civilization, which we inhabit. The Mother Goddess has, of course, been worshipped in some form in almost every culture that has emerged in other parts of the world, and in some places, she is still an important figure. But in the interest of time, I want to focus on the Mother Goddess as she relates to Western religious thinking, and the reasons for her declining significance over the last 2 millennia. So let's start with the earliest evidence we have. Anthropologists believe that most prehistoric and ancient societies were matrilineal, tracing family and clan ties through the mother's lineage until relatively recent in human history. The simple reason is that the father's role in conception was a mystery. Since babies do not pop out right after intercourse, it is reasonable to believe that a woman becoming pregnant and giving birth was seen by our distant ancestors as something truly magical and amazing. But while the birth may have been mysterious, what was clearly obvious was the identity of the mother who gave birth. The role of the mother in ensuring the community, a continuity of the tribe was essential. And it is believed that worshiping the mother goddess began as a reflection of this understanding. Some of the earliest religious art, dating to at least 25,000 years ago, is represented by so-called Venus figurines, carvings discovered in a number of Eurasian Upper Paleolithic sites that are believed to depict the mother goddess as a pregnant female. There's a replica beside me of one of the most famous of these, the Venus of Willendorf, which was discovered in 1908 in the Danube Valley of Austria. We will likely never know much about the rituals and beliefs of such ancient peoples from the scant archaeological record, but a few burials in the Middle East dated to between 9,000 and 7,000 years ago contain similar mother goddess figurines and the use of red ochre. And these display a cultural and geographic continuity with later sites that are known to practice worship of the mother goddess. By 5000 BCE, in present-day Turkey, houses were built with multiple rooms, and in some of these, images of the goddess have been discovered on pottery along with figurines. Often they're associated with images of serpents, double axes, and doves, which are all symbols that are associated with the mother goddess worship in the region in the centuries to come. It seems logical to conclude that even though religions were evolving over the millennia to include a host of gods and goddesses, both human and animal, some form of the mother goddess remained a central figure for a very long time. As agriculture developed in the Fertile Crescent and elsewhere, the mother goddess became naturally associated with the fertility of crops, planting and harvesting. She was venerated in different places for her gifts that ranged from the very fabric of space and time to language and alphabets and the knowledge of agricultural practices and medicinal plants. When archaeology came into its own in the 19th and 20th centuries, the importance of female deities started to be unearthed. But many of the assumptions made in the period that diminished the significance of the mother goddess are now being revised. Many of the earlier archaeologists and religious historians dismissed images of the mother goddess as representing some kind of, quote, fertility cult, rather than the supreme queen of the universe. This displayed not only an inherent Eurocentric bias in favor of a male god and patriarchal society, but it probably says a lot about the overactive sexual imaginations of male archaeologists who kept finding naked and often voluptuous depictions of the mother goddess. Merlin Stone points out that the subordinate role of women was so ingrained in their thinking that many tombs of Egyptian queens discovered by these archaeologists were mistakenly associated with kings because they were considered too lavish for a woman, even if the hieroglyphics clearly named the queen lying in front of them. As we learned to translate ancient inscriptions, stories about the mother goddess and other female deities, and prayers and hymns began to paint a richer portrait of the significance of the divine female in ancient cultures. In Mesopotamia, she was Inanna, or Ishtar, the supreme goddess of fertility, war, love, and storms. For the Phoenicians and some other tribes in the Levant, she was Astarte. For the Egyptians, she was Nut, goddess of the sky and heavens. And before Yahwism became dominant, even the ancient Hebrews once worshipped a female deity in their pantheon. Yahweh, who scholars believe began life as a Canaanite sky deity, became imagined as the one and only God, and he was unambiguously male and apparently quite jealous. This was bad news for goddesses and ordinary women alike. The Bible usually omits the gender of the gods and goddesses whose idols and altars the Israelites are ordered to destroy, but there is no doubt the Queen of Heaven was the primary target of Yahweh's wrath. Many scholars now believe that, contrary to what the Bible says, the Israelites emerged from among the Canaanite tribes, adopting a differentiated identity over time. So they likely worshipped the Canaanite mother goddess, Asherah. Altars to Asherah were frequently built in high places and included sacred poles. So consider the following passage from Deuteronomy, spoken by the jealous God of Israel. You must completely destroy all the places where the nations you dispossess have served their gods. On high mountains, on hills, under any spreading tree, you must tear down their altars, smash their pillars, cut down their sacred poles, set fire to the carved images of their gods, and wipe their name from that place. This sounds a lot like the extremism of the Taliban or ISIS in recent years, who blew up ancient Buddhist and Greco-Roman shrines and statues in the name of ridding Islamic lands of pagan idols. The pre-Islamic mother goddess, Allat, was once worshipped alongside Allah in Arabia. But Islam, too, is vehemently opposed to idolatry, and it is one source of the incredible misogyny in Islamic lands. As it clearly states in the Quran, Allah will not tolerate idolatry. The pagans pray to females. Both Christianity and Islam have origins in Judaism, and both adopted the Adam and Eve story along with its inherent bias toward women as part of its holy scriptures, though the version in the Quran is a bit different. Christianity was originally more egalitarian, but once it became aligned with the Roman Empire, it became male-dominated, and it spread with the Roman Empire and began to supplant other religions in the Western world. When Roman Christianity encountered groups that still worshiped the mother goddess, it did not end well for the goddess. The same story was repeated a few centuries later with a militant Islamic caliphate. Though the mother goddess once reigned from India to Western Europe, she slowly receded into history. But she never completely disappeared. In a few places, her worship continued. And in others, Christian saints like Bridget in Ireland took on characteristics that seem suspiciously like those of the mother goddess. The long decline of worshiping the mother goddess is a complicated and fascinating story that I have only highlighted today, and there are many good resources these days for further study. Now, having talked about the mother goddess in the past, what are we to make of her in the present and the future? Is there a place for her in a world so saturated with masculine images of the divine? My short answer is absolutely. I feel it is important to at least metaphorically rediscover the mother goddess if we have any chance of healing the world. Already for the last half century, women have begun to reclaim the mother goddess and feminine spirituality in many forms. For some Wiccans and other neo-pagans, the mother goddess has regained her central importance in their spirituality. Others have started exploring feminine spirituality within their more traditional religions, and the mother goddess may be a metaphorical symbol of that quest, along with mother-father God language. And for the environmental movement, Gaia, the Greek mother goddess of the earth, has become a name for the interdependent web of life on our planet. She is revered by many as a living superorganism of whom we are constituent parts. And as we explore indigenous spiritualities to help reconnect us with the earth, Learning about Pachamama or other forms of their mother goddess is critical to our conceptual understanding. On a spiritual level, there is as big a place for the mother goddess today as ever, and she is sorely needed. On the practical side, it is daunting to look at the state of our world without grave concerns for women who many still imagine as the daughters of Eve. With the subordinate status of women still largely enshrined in the Abrahamic faiths, the road ahead looks long and difficult. The ramifications of overturning Roe v. Wade are difficult enough here in America, but just think about the women in the Islamic world. It's hard to imagine the return of the mother goddess, even symbolically, in a place like Afghanistan or Saudi Arabia. Muhammad reportedly said that when Eve was created, Satan rejoiced. I can only speculate why he was so misogynistic, but words like this are used to justify the continued subjugation and abuse of women in Islamic nations. The challenges may seem insurmountable, but there are success stories that can give us hope, even in the darkest places on earth. For Unitarian Universalists, it didn't take long for our faith to explore Eastern religions and other spiritualities that still retain a place for feminine spirituality once we moved beyond the traditional Christianity of our ancestors. And in the 1970s and 80s, there was a renewed interest in the Mother Goddess as UU women transformed our movement toward greater equality within our faith and in society at large. I believe this is a trend that will continue, especially with the current concerns for the Earth's climate and the successes we have already seen in women's leadership in our association. In the spirit of the Mother Goddess, I pray that it will be so. I also pray that this country will reverse course and become a safer place for women, and that we can break away from the mythology of our past that continues to deny women equal standing. Let us give thanks for all the mothers and mother figures in our lives and pray for the well-being of those who will one day join their ranks. I invite you to enjoy our closing hymn, number 331, Life is the Greatest Gift of All.
Life is the greatest gift of all, the riches on this earth. Life and its creatures, great and small, of high and lowly birth. So treasure it and measure it with deeds of shining worth. Mind is the brightest gift of all, its thought no barrier mars. It seeks creation's hidden plan, its quest surmounts all bars. It reins the wind, it chains the storm, it weighs the outmost stars. We are of life, its shining gift, the measure of all things. Up from the dust our temples lift, our vision soars on wings. For seed and root, for flower and fruit, our grateful spirit sings.
Our closing words this morning are from an Orphic poem to Demeter that dates to around 500 BCE. O all nature, queen, mother of all things, untiring mother, exalted, creating, she who tames all, unmentionable, shining, the firstborn who quenches everything, who brings the light. Born of yourself, present everywhere, present everywhere, and all-knowing, you blessed one, who makes things grow and rot, Father and Mother of all things, universal worker, you who walk forth in an endless maelstrom, conserving, you who uphold through repeated metamorphosis. I pray to you, give me peace.
We will now extinguish our chalice with the following words. If you wish, please join me in the recitation. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. It is time for our postlude. Be safe and be well.